discuss this further with Caroline Heldman, a Democratic strategist and professor of critical theory and social justice at Occidental College. Also joining us is Mike Madrid, co-founder of the Lincoln Project and founder of the Latino Working Class Project. Great to have you both with us.
Good to see you.
Great to be with you.
Caroline, I want to start with you because this is the first shutdown we've seen in the US in 6 years. It's going to affect thousands of people who won't be getting paychecks and certain benefits. How does this shutdown affect everyday people in ways that may go unseen or unreported?
Well, Alex did such a great job kind of running down the list that if you're going to be flying, you might run into TSA delays. The national parks are going to be understaffed, perhaps closed, with garbage overflowing if the previous shutdown is any indication. But also all of these folks in the military and all of these other jobs where they're simply not going to be getting paid, but will be negotiating with their banks and their landlords, their lending agencies to make sure that things are still on track. That will have a ripple effect. We do know that the last time the government was shut down, which was under the Trump administration over the building of his wall, it was historic. It was the longest, right? 35 days. And it cost us $11 billion in economic loss. So the ripple effects of this will obviously span out, but also just to point out, there will be some social safety net programs that Trump said he will be going after, right? So he didn't mention it by name, but women, WIC, women, infants, and children, support for low-income mothers, as well as SNAP benefits or food stamp benefits. So we should expect some pretty severe impacts if this drags out.
Yeah, I want to ask you a little bit more about that in a moment, Caroline, but I want to go to Mike, because you've been critical of blatant political bias in the past. I just want to play some sound of what Democrats had to say last time they were facing a government shutdown.
To hold these people hostage, instead of just letting them do their jobs, which they want to do while we work out our differences, so wrong.
Shutdowns are not good for the economy.
Shutdowns cost taxpayers billions of dollars per week.
The longer that this shutdown goes on, the more Americans it will be affected.
Critical services and our economy are being threatened with poison pill partisanship. Shutting down the government should not be a negotiating tactic.
Hostage taking is all they have left.
Now, the White House compiled that, and they were playing that in the briefing room today. Mike, how have the tables turned, and how do you interpret this shutdown? Is it just gridlock or perhaps something more destructive?
I think it's something more destructive. I think it's something that, frankly, the White House has wanted. It's clear that they have not been negotiating in good faith and certainly weren't in the last waning hours heading up to this shutdown. Their calculation, it would seem, is they've already got their numbers baked in. They don't feel that their numbers can go any lower. Trump and Republicans are hovering around a historically low range right now. They're at base Republican support, but Democrats are at a historic low range as well. And I think with that calculation, they're saying, let's just take the opportunity to get some of these massive cuts, and as the president alluded to, permanent cuts. And Democrats, I think, find themselves in a very difficult, challenging situation. They're going to have to either upset their base by acquiescing again and putting up the votes for a bill to keep the government going, or demonstrate that they're willing to fight. And the fight, of course, gets more thornier for them the longer that this goes on, and as real people, as Christine mentioned just a second ago, gets more and more difficult for more and more people. I think that the White House, rather than learning the lesson from the last shutdown, has dug in and is committed to a very long, protracted battle where they see permanent reformation of the government being made easier by and the possibility of blaming Democrats.
Yeah. And Caroline, as you mentioned, social safety net programs are under immediate threat. What does it say about our national priorities when programs that serve women and children are first on the chopping block?
Well, it says that, right, we don't value certain lives in our country as much as others. And it's interesting to see the Democrats take this stance on healthcare. I think of this in terms of the politics of it and then the policy side of it. On the politics side of it, I think the Democrats are doing exactly what the Democratic Party wants it to do, which is fight and show some leadership and push back against the Trump administration, despite the fact that they don't hold power really in any of the branches of government. On the policy side, as Mike is pointing out, there's nothing to be gained from this. I don't think. And so what they're trying to get is the healthcare premiums to not be doubled, right? Which is what the new estimate is. Once these cuts go into effect, we're looking at about 4 million people who will not have health care, who have it today. That will drive up everyone's premiums. So the Democrats have a good message. But the thing is that's Republicans kind of punching themselves in the face in a way that's going to hit them next year. So first, I don't think Democrats are going to get those concessions. But secondly, and from a purely political standpoint, it's terrible when people lose healthcare. I mean, people literally die, right, when they don't have the healthcare they need. But from a political perspective, the Democrats should just let the Republicans do this. It will harm them considerably in the midterm elections. From their own Republican internal polling, we know that when healthcare premiums go up, this is going to hurt the party that did it.
Yeah. And to you, Mike, it seems the Republican Party is quite split on how to handle this shutdown. I just want to play some sound of what the Speaker, Mike Johnson, had to say earlier. We don't seem to have that right now, but he basically explained how damaging this was going to be for the US. Quite a contrast to what we saw from the US president, who said it could be a good thing because there could be permanent cuts, more federal workers who will lose their job. Mike, what does it reveal about the party's internal direction and its relationship with governing?
I think there's another important point too that Caroline brought up, which is a lot of these people that are going to be hurt the most are going to be in red states.
Yeah.
A lot of these are these kind of deep MAGA countries and counties, not countries, where a lot of these people are getting this kind of healthcare aid, healthcare benefit. SNAP benefits only last 30 days. People are going to be literally running out of food. So a lot of these, again, are going to be in red states, red counties. And we're going to see just how much glue is holding together this constituency, which has defied most political gravity for the better part of 6-8 years in supporting Donald Trump. Does that continue? Do they believe a lot of the messaging coming from the White House that this is the Democrats' fault? The White House is betting that that will be the case. We're going to have, I don't think there's anything we can do but wait and see when they start losing their health care, when they start losing food benefits, if they stick with Donald Trump, if they stick with the Republicans, or if they finally break that fever that has consumed them for the better part of, again, 8 years.
Yeah, we shall see how it plays out. Mike Madrid, Caroline Heldman, great to have you both with us. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll